The Cancelled Movies Iceberg Explained. Sup y'all, Book of Alice here, explaining the Cancelled Movies Iceberg. I want to take a second to thank our sponsors, which is you. If you're subscribed, thank you so much for getting the channel to 15,000 subscribers and 1 million views. It's truly a blessing and it's becoming something more than just a hobby. I'm putting hours into this channel and it's nice to know that my content is even being consumed by people. Thank you. Now, this iceberg is going to cover all types of cancelled films, ranging from animations to horror movies. I kinda just went all in, with no particular theme or category. Remember, this is just a one-man show at the moment, so it could get difficult trying to include every minute detail. But without further ado, let's get into the iceberg. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, is an unproduced, unauthorized mockumentary that was supposed to be distributed by Regal Films and MVD. The film was cancelled, but the creator behind the film is still planning on making the film through a crowdfunding effort. In this mockumentary, SpongeBob lives above ground like all Hollywood superstars. Afraid that SpongeBob is becoming old news, his boss runs a contest called Spend a Day with SpongeBob. The contest makes SpongeBob the talk of the town as thousands of kids enter to win. The lucky winner is Sith and he is ecstatic about his day with SpongeBob. However, the day becomes a roller coaster ride as things don't go quite the way they planned. The creator of the film, who goes under the name Mr. Orange for privacy reasons, wanted to create a family film, but Mr. Orange was hesitant to make the film out of fear of legal action from Nickelodeon or Viacom. But after talking with the lawyer, he was told that he could make the film if it was a parody. It would also help if the film was live action, and clearly acknowledged that it was completely unofficial. After his pitch cover received positive reception, distributor Regal Films offered to help him by posting it on Amazon to see if there would be any interest via pre-orders. The film was also given a barcode while it was in pre-production. However, the production of the film was still facing budgetary issues. Therefore, Mr. Orange put the movie's production on hold. Black Panther 2. Chadwick Boseman's death last summer caught almost everyone off guard, as the actor had kept his colon cancer diagnosis private, and Ryan Coogler, who directed Boseman in Black Panther, was one of the many people surprised by Boseman's death, as he had already been working on the script for Black Panther 2 for Boseman to star in. Following Boseman's passing, there was some question as to how the film series could even continue. For a while, everyone was unsure if the film was cancelled or placed on hold, some believing that T'Challa could not be replaced by any other actor. But eventually, everyone decided to move forward with altered plans. Black Panther 2 would happen, but rather than recast Boseman's role of T'Challa, Coogler would rework his script, leaving some wondering what the original script of Black Panther 2 contained and how different it was. In a recent interview, Coogler adds that moving forward would have been exactly what Boseman would have wanted. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. Following the box office success and ambiguous ending of the crossover slasher Freddy vs. Jason 2003, plans were made for a follow-up film based on the storyline of the comic sequel, which delved into the concept of including Ash Williams of the Evil Dead horror franchise and reoccurring characters from the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th franchise. However, following creative differences between New Line Cinema and Bruce Campbell, the film was scrapped. In a final confrontation between the three horror movie icons, Freddy resurrects all of Jason's previous victims from the Friday the 13th films as deities after Jason turns on him, and turns the Voorhees home into the Elm Street house. Ultimately, Ash uses the Necronomicon to open a portal, banishing Freddy to the deity world, while Jason and the Necronomicons are isolated underneath a frozen crystal lake. This would have been very interesting to see in a film adaptation. Madagascar 4. Madagascar 4 was supposed to be the fourth and last entry to the Madagascar franchise. However, production was halted when Anne Globe stated that it was too early to tell. Despite work being done on the film, it was removed from its May 18, 2018 release schedule. The plot is currently unknown, but it would probably focus around our main heroes, Alex, Marty, Gloria, and Melman, being tired of being in captivity and trying to return to Africa. The cancellation was probably from three results: the fact that NBC Universal bought DreamWorks in 2016 and the reconstruction of the studio. Also, there was a policy for DreamWorks where they could only release 2 movies a year. Superman Lives. Superman Lives, previously titled Superman Reborn, is the title for a canceled Superman movie intended for production during the 1990s. The film was to be directed by Tim Burton and produced by Jon Peters. The story would feature Brainiac, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday as villains. Wesley Strick and Dan Gilroy wrote the screenplays that were nearly filmed. Nicolas Cage was officially announced to play Superman, and in 2009, images of Cage wearing capes and Superman costumes for screen tests began to surface. All versions of the movie were loosely based on the Death of Superman storyline from the comics. The main villain was the alien supercomputer Brainiac, and he had a plot to kill Superman by simultaneously blocking out the sun and unleashing Doomsday on Metropolis. The plot works and Superman is killed. Later in the movie, he is resurrected by Kay, who acts as his temporary costume and artificially produces all of his powers. The project was, however, scrapped. Peters would go on to produce the also cancelled Superman Flyby. The idea of removing the red briefs from the costume would carry over to many other Superman projects. Newt. Newt is a cancelled Pixar film. It would have been the studio's 14th feature film, a place that was ultimately taken by Brave. Gary Rydstrom was going to make his full-length feature film directional debut. The film was originally scheduled to be released during the summer of 2011, but was pushed back to 2012, and from there was replaced with Brave in Pixar's film schedule. At the April 2010 announcement, Disney/Pixar did not provide any update release date for Newt. Additionally, the film was removed from the official Disney A to Z Encyclopedia supplement by Chief Archivist Dave Smith. An unsigned message received from Smith's email address stated that the film had been cancelled as well. This message, along with other comments from the other industry insiders, led to the speculation that the film had been indeed cancelled. Disney/Pixar animation head John Lasseter declined to comment, but a separate source from within the studio stated, "We have taken Newt off our development schedule to allow our creative team to focus on these up-and-coming projects." One film with a plot similar to Newt had been released as well, titled Real, which was made by 20th Century Fox and animation studio Blue Skies. The similar plot in the film could be a reason why Newt was cancelled. John Lasseter admitted that there was a plot resemblance of Newt and Real. Napoleon. After the success of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Kubrick planned a large-scale biographical film about Napoleon. He tried to watch every film that was ever made on the subject, including Ava Gaines's Napoleon and the Soviet film series titled War and Peace, neither of which he liked. He also conducted research, read books about the French Emperor, and wrote a preliminary screenplay, which has since become available on the internet and has been published as a part of a comprehensive collection of his research and pre-production work. Kubrick also scattered locations, planning to film large portions of the film on location in France. In addition to the use of United Kingdom studios, the director was also going to film the battle scenes in Romania and had listed the support of the Romanian People's Army. Senior army officers had committed 40,000 soldiers and 10,000 cavalrymen to Kubrick's film for the paper costume battle scenes, and notes that Kubrick wrote to his financial backers, preserved in the book The Kubrick Archives. Kubrick pressed uncertainty in regard to the progress of the Napoleon film and the film's production. However, he also stated that he expected to create the best movie ever made. The Game of Death. The Game of Death is an incomplete Hong Kong martial arts film, filmed between August and October 1972. Directed, written, produced by, and starring Bruce Lee. In his final attempt, Lee died during the making of the film. Over 100 minutes of the footage was shot prior to his death, which was later misplaced in the Golden Harvest archives. The remaining footage has been released with Lee's original Cantonese and English dialogue. Much of the footage that was shot is from what was supposed to be the climax of the film. Halo the movie. Halo was a proposed live-action adaptation of the popular video game directed by Neil Blomkamp and produced by Peter Jackson. It was scheduled for a 2009 release date. Lord of the Rings movie director Peter Jackson confirmed his Halo video game project was no longer in development. Jackson announced back in 2006 that he would work with Bungie on a new game in the series alongside a planned movie of the franchise, which was also cancelled some time ago. The Popeye movie. Popeye was a proposed film that was going to be made by Sony Pictures Animation. The film was going to be directed by Genndy Tartarovsky. I don't know how to pronounce that. I messed that up badly. I'm sorry, please forgive me. The creator of Samurai Jack and Dexter's Laboratory. Though Genndy thought that the Popeye movie wouldn't work, Sony decided to focus more on the production of the Emoji Movie. Despite being a modest success at the box office, the Emoji Movie was almost universally panned by critics and audiences alike. Now let's move on to the tip. Gambit. Gambit is an unproduced American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. It was intended to be an installment of the X-Men film series before its cancellation. Channing Tatum was set to star in the title role, produced by Lauren Schuler. The film's release date was pushed back numerous times. Gambit was scheduled for release on March 13, 2020, but development of the film was placed on hold due to the acquisition of 21st Century Fox by Disney. After taking over the film, Disney officially canceled it in May 2019. Freddy vs. Jason 2. Naturally, when a film is that successful, a sequel is made, especially when considering that New Line loved to milk these two characters so much. Freddy vs. Jason was the 11th film to feature Jason and the 8th to feature Freddy. However, a sequel was never released. Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, the writers of the classic 2003 Blood Fist, Freddy vs. Jason, took to Twitter to state their desires for another round between the two titans of horror. "We still want to get it made," they said. "We would love to make another one." The duo tweeted, "But it's always good to get fresh eyes on the material, no? We've had our day. We've written for Jason more than any other writer, I think. Let someone new come in and give it fresh blood. It's odd that we have 23 Freddy and Jason movies, but only one where they actually fight it out." Jimmy Neutron 2: The Search for Carl. Jimmy Neutron 2: The Search for Carl was a planned sequel to the 2001 film Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. It was described that the sequel would be made on the same budget as the first, but with a new batch of inventions and adventures in Jimmy's town of Retroville. The film was cancelled because the writers could not agree on a story, and Alcorn later stated in an interview that once the TV series came out, there wasn't a lot of incentive to make a movie when fans could simply watch a Jimmy Neutron show for free at home. The TV show, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, served as a continuation of the 2001 film. Batman Triumphant. Batman Unchained, otherwise known as Batman Triumphant, was the planned sequel to Batman and Robin, being written by Mark Potrovic. It was cancelled after the negative reception of Batman and Robin. Some themes and imagery from the script were later used in Batman Begins. In late 1996, Warner Bros. And Schumacher hired Mark Petrikov to write the script for a fifth Batman film. A projected mid-1999 release date was announced, titled Batman Unchained. Potrikov's script had the Scarecrow as the main villain, and it would bring back the franchise in a more serious and darker direction, unlike the previous two films. Chicken Little 2: Mission to Mars. Chicken Little 2: Mission to Mars was a cancelled sequel to Chicken Little. According to the book Chicken Little: The Essential Guide, it was going to be a sequel, but that never came to fruition, so the video game, titled Chicken Little: Ace in Action, serves as an actual sequel to the film. Todd Carter recalled on the film's production, stating, "In the story, Chicken Little finds himself in the midst of a love triangle. On one side, it's his childhood sweetheart, Abby. On the other side, it's the very attractive newcomer, Rafaela, the French sheep. Abby's at the tremendous disadvantage here, so she goes to great lengths to give herself a makeover. A portion of the makeover sequence is represented on my website, which shows Abby's grand entrance at the school with her newfound look." In my opinion, I think that the only reason Chicken Little was so successful is because of its unique storyline. Other than that, I don't know how a sequel would work. I think it was a good standalone film. Alien 5. Alien 5 Awakening was a planned film in the Alien series. The movie would have taken place about 30 years after Aliens and would have included an acid-scarred Hicks, and also Ellen Ripley and Newt as grown woman. It would also have ignored the events in Alien 3 and Resurrection, and focus around what happened after Aliens. Sadly, Ridley Scott canceled the film project in May 2017. The Amazing Spider-Man 3. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was a proposed sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, originally scheduled for a release in 2016, but pushed back to 2018. The film, set in the events of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Peter grieves over the death of Gwen and decides to use his blood to revive various people who died while he was still living, Peter would later face off with new villains. Plans for Amazing Spider-Man Cinematic Universe, as well as this sequel, were cancelled due to the controversial Sony hack of 2014. Larrikins. Larrikins was an American computer animated musical comedy film to be produced by DreamWorks Animation Studios and distributed by Universal Pictures. Sadly, the movie was cancelled in March of 2017, though its characters and assets were used in a 2018 short film titled Bibli. McKinnon announced on his personal blog that Larrikins had been cancelled and that he was furious. According to Deadline, the reason for the cancellation was that creatively it just wasn't working out well. Due to Larrikins' cancellation, no DreamWorks Animation feature films were released in 2018, the first time DreamWorks Animation skipped a year since 1999. Tron 3. Tron 3 was a planned film from Walt Disney Studios based on the Tron series, intended to follow up Tron Legacy. By 2013, it was planned to be directed by Joseph Kosinski. Not much is known about the plot of the film, although it's very likely that actor Cillian Murphy would have played Edward, who may have been the main villain. The film was reported to be scrapped on May 30th, 2015. Olivia Wilde stated on her Twitter account in June that it had been halted with no set release date. Actor Bruce added that it caused him to lose all interest in reprising the role as Alan in the future, saying, "I don't really care anymore, I'm done with it, I've moved on, I hate to say it, but it's been too up and down for me, I would rather not just keep going, I don't want to repeat my career anymore." Heart of Darkness. During when Heart of Darkness was released on the PlayStation and Microsoft Windows, Amazing Studios were originally making a featured animation movie based on the game, but due to the bankruptcy of the company, it was officially cancelled. The game itself places players in the role of a child named Andy as he attempts to rescue his dog who has been kidnapped by a shadow-like species. The game is about half an hour of storytelling cinematic sequence, thousands of 2D animated frames, and uses pre-renders background scenery, which would have made for a great film adaptation. Now let's move on to the censure. Nicktoons film. In 2015, it was announced that Nicktoons live-action animated crossover film was up for release, with Jared Hiss as the director. The script being written by Hiss and his wife and was going to be produced by Mary Parent, but in reality the film was not going to be made, despite its announcements. According to Rocko's Modern Life creator, Joe Murray, Paramount Pictures rejected the film's pitch written by Hiss. The film was supposedly half live action and half animated in a Space Jam-like style. SpongeBob SquarePants creator Stephen Hillenburg was strongly against spin-offs, crossovers, and aging down the characters, which may have led to its cancellation, as SpongeBob was a core character in the Nickelodeon franchise. Gigantic. Gigantic was a planned computer-animated musical comedy film produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios. It was initially scheduled to be the 59th animated feature in the Disney animated canon, following the release of Frozen 2 in November of 2019. On October 10, 2017, Disney announced that the project had been cancelled and would be replaced with Raya and the Last Dragon. Set in Spain during the Age of Exploration, the film follows Jack as he discovers a world full of giants within the clouds. Jack befriends the female giant Enma, who's 11 years old, 60 feet tall, fiery, feisty, and out of control, as he is treated like a living doll. The Godfather 4. The Godfather 4 was a planned sequel film in the Godfather series. It was cancelled when director Francis Ford Coppola's co-writer Mario Puzo died in July 1999. The series would have seen Vincent Corleone lead the Corleone crime family through a 10-year destructive war, which lost his respect with other crime families. This would have ended with the death of Vincent and the downfall of the Corleone crime family for good. Flashback to the 1930s would have shown Vito Corleone gaining political influence and also the rise of the Vincent father Sonny. Elements of the script depicting flashbacks set in the 1930s with a young Sonny Corleone were used for the 2012 prequel novel The Family Corleone. The Fairly Odd Parents. The Fairly Odd Parents was a planned animated film based on a television series of the same name. The premise for the movie is currently unknown and is most likely obscure, but it was supposed to differ from the live-action movies. 3 live-action television films based on the television series were eventually made in 2011, 2012, and 2014 respectively, same as Ben 10. Doctor Who meets Scratchman. Doctor Who meets Scratchman, also titled Doctor Who and the Big Game, was a planned movie written by Tom Baker and Ian Marter. The story was to feature the Doctor, Harry, and Sarah as they face the devil known as the Scratchman. Other enemies which were to appear were scarecrows which came to life in the Daleks, and a small cameo of the Spiderman. The finale was to take place on a giant pinball table. The movie was to have Vincent Price and Twiggy involved and to be written and directed by James Hill. An article including a synopsis of the film by Marcus Hem with the art Brian Williamson, including a mock movie poster, was featured in DWM 379. Over 44 years after its initial development, on 24 January 2019, the story was finally adapted by Baker into a novelization with the audiobook read by Baker himself. Godzilla 3D to the Max. Godzilla 3D to the Max is an unmade 2008 Godzilla film. The movie was originally scheduled to be released theatrically in the United States on September 12, 2007, with a Japanese theatrical release to follow up and to be announced in 2008, but was delayed. Aside from the 3D IMAX format, the film was planned to be shot in 70mm film and was slated to be 40 minutes long. However, it took a long time to get funding approved from Toho, and the film was stuck in a state of production hell for about a year. As of February 2008, the funding had been received and the movie had been scheduled to be released in early 2009, but sadly it didn't. The plot reads: a monster called Dithla appears and awakens Godzilla from hibernation in the Gluza Falls, located between Argentina and Brazil. A battle ensues, progressing to Mexico City and finally concluding in Las Vegas. This would have been badass, bro. The Mummy, The Rise of the Aztecs. The Mummy, The Rise of the Aztecs was a planned third sequel to the Stephen Sommers' The Mummy series, which in turn would have been a sequel to The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. The O'Connell family go to Peru to fight against the mummies of an Aztec emperor portrayed by Antonio Banderas. Despite Maria Bello and Luke Ford signing to star in the sequel, it was scrapped due to the negative reception of The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. The series was rebooted with another Mummy film which had a 2017 release. However, it flopped at the box office and was panned by critics and audiences alike. I would have loved to watch this film, as I personally believe that Mesoamerican civilizations are fascinating and would make for a great civilization to base movies off of, even if it involves mummies. I mean, look at the interesting architecture and mystical landscape that they could have used as backgrounds in the film. Treasure Planet 2. Treasure Planet 2 is an unreleased direct-to-video animated film sequel of the 2002 first part, which was not all too successful but later went on to gain recognition. According to an article by Animated Views, it would have involved Jim Hopkins going to the Royal Interstellar Academy, where he is described as being a bit of a hotshot, in contrast to his smart classmates and eventually love interest Kate Blake. On a Monday after the original film's release near Thanksgiving, Foxkine and the project's producers were at a recording studio in New York, expecting for Dafoe to arrive in 30 seconds to record lines for the project. Instead, they received a phone call saying that the project had been cancelled in light of the first film's failure at the box office. If you're watching this far into the iceberg, thank you so much. Let me know how it was and if you're interested in a part 2. This one was pretty long to make, but expect the next one to be even longer. Thanks for watching and later.